So
Yeah, I think
today,
we should just
today we're
get
gonna.
started.
Well, I'll try to behave myself. Today we'll talk about Meta and if they're actually gonna fail or succeed, and if Apple's gonna take over all of VR and AR, and that's just the way it's gonna go. And let me introduce the panel. The panel we have
But-
the
All right.
great
Well,
David Boxer, who's actually an animator and a programmer, and
Cool.
he works. Can I say where you work? I don't know if that's. I think
Yeah,
I already
sure.
outed you out a week ago.
Yeah.
He works at Discord on gaming and stuff, and he has a
Nice.
VR thing that he's working on too. So he has some experience with this. Uh, you know me and Carlos, of course. And Rangu, I know your background a little bit. You were at Apple for 5 years, so he actually
Yeah.
worked on some of the VR tech, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
and also was a part of the M1 Ultra team. And since then, you've left and you took a job at Starlink. You're currently at
No,
Starlink.
no, no, no.
but he's
Tesla.
Tesla. He's at Tesla.
Supercharging.
Okay.
He's in the.
I'm sorry,
he's in
Supercharging.
the-
there's another guy I was talking to that was from
Mhm.
Starlink. Okay, and for the sake of a debate, I think it's important at the beginning to outline what it is you are trying to prove, so that by the end of this debate, you know whether or not you've proved it.
I was thinking
okay?
the same.
I think
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a good
my-
idea.
I think my point, the point that I've been making, is that number one, the Apple Vision Pro is by far a superior technology to the Meta Quest in every single way. That's the first point. Second point is that because of that technological advancement, I think that it's going to be capable of doing things that the Meta Quest will not be able to do, or it will struggle to emulate. The third thing is Apple will sell every single one of these devices at the price point. The price point is not a problem because people that wanted access to this only had.
Wait, should we write
access
this
to, like,
down? I'm gonna lose. You're making too many points off the bat.
We won't lose it. It's
I think we
part of
just
the
got to go
conversation.
one by one. Honestly,
No,
there's
no,
too
no.
many.
But I want to state it at the top. I want to state it at the top
Okay.
so that this way there's no changing of a thesis throughout. So I think they're going to sell every single one. I think if anything, Apple will siphon people away from the Meta Quest. Those users that have a Quest that have more money but no device. And I think anyone that wants a Quest would have already gotten it because it's out. It's been out for years. They're going to be out before. They're going to release the 3 before Apple comes out with theirs. And my last point would be that this metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg promised will actually take place on the Vision Pro and not the Meta Quest. I believe that his overall goal for the Quest was to create a hardware platform that would free him from the prison that Apple puts him in and from being under Apple's thumb. And I don't think that that's going to be successful. So those are my main points. And I also wanted to say them to Rango because being that I'm seeing him as like supporting my side, I don't want to say something that he doesn't agree with.
Well, Rango, I don't think you're taking a side here, correct? He's already
I mean,
pigeonholing
I'm
you
not
on one
taking
side.
sides. I'm not taking sides. I mean, I'm in the sense I have so what this is not. Let me say what this is not, and then what I'm trying to prove. Like, I'm not saying Meta will be a bad investment. I'm not saying the ad misses. I'm not saying Meta will fail or anything like that.
Right.
All I'm trying to say is the AR VR stuff will not be value accretive strategically and technologically to Meta's valuation in the future, in 5 years from now.
Okay, I do actually want to go.
They
into
would
that.
have burned up. Huh? Like, that's what I am trying to. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. That's my side of it. I'm not saying Meta will be a bad investment. I'm just saying like AR VR will not be value accretive to the investment.
Can you turn your
Investment
phone,
case.
Rango? Can you turn your phone to fill more of the screen?
Yeah. Is it fine?
So
Is it better?
No, just because you're like a
Ro-
vertical instead
rotate
of a
it.
square. If you can
Like,
rotate it.
I think you're
Is
locked.
this better?
No, you've locked
No.
your.
Oh,
your-
one second.
You've blocked your
Yeah.
orientation.
Is this?
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's nicer.
There we go. And
I
guys,
think
you guys, everyone else, feel free to turn your cameras on. Like you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have
be
to sit
silent
there all
here.
quietly.
Kind of nice to see people,
Mhm.
unless you have an issue with turning your camera on, because at some point I do think we'll make this available to non-Patreon members, maybe in a week or two. Vitaly and I will talk about that and see. Maybe we'll put this out on Freelancer Finance as an episode.
Yeah, but and if you show something
mean,
or say
guys,
something, hold on a second. If you say something,
yeah.
Yes, wait, listen to
If
Vitaly.
you-
Listen to
if-
Vitaly.
if you say
yeah.
something or do anything that you don't want us to show, this is for Patreon members. So just let us
Uh,
know right as soon as you say it or see it. Say I don't want this in the podcast or blah blah blah, and then we won't put that section out. We can cut it out. This
Okay.
is not going up live or
Right.
anything.
If you want to send
Nice.
nudes, just send it in the private chat, but don't post it here on the screen share.
So
Go
yeah,
out to the
this is
world.
meant for Patreon members only, at least right now,
Right.
and maybe we'll take a section of it or a couple of sections that are interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
That makes sense.
Okay,
Okay,
I don't know why you're showing us
I've
the
made
stakes.
I've made
Making us
my
hungry.
thesis. This is the thesis that I've been trying. This is my point that I've been trying to make for a few weeks now, and on various podcasts as well as in the Discord. And so, yeah, I think Vitaly, make your case, and then we openly debate it. And I think the people in the Discord or in the chat will decide how it went.
Can everybody just say one? I think. Let me see if I hear you. You win one ear, Carlos.
Check.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. Okay, you guys are in there. That's fine. Okay, so I mean, I've made my point clearly multiple times that there's never just one player who takes over everything. And I think, David, we already talked multiple times about this, but you'll say your own thing, but there is to Apple, there is Google. Okay, there's always another competitor, so no one gets the whole 90% of the market. Even Apple right now in phones doesn't have 90% of the phone market. We can argue about they will make the most money. That's fine. That's probably going to happen. I have all Apple products here. I'm a big believer Apple's going to make a lot of money. But to say that the Oculus is not going to be successful, and this is to you, Rangu, I think is a big miscalculation, first of all, because gaming itself, even if it doesn't become this bigger thing, gaming itself, and I want to go into some of those numbers, how big this industry is, and David's in that industry, he can talk more about it, that this is the main thing for even compute, okay? The reason computers are where they are is because of gaming, okay? And so we can talk about all of that, that there is always going to be a number two, even if Meta is not number one. And I'm not saying they're not going to be a number one. I'm just saying there's always a number two in their technology, plus the drive of their leader is important in order to make a successful product. The leader has to stand behind it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of leaders who are part of these big companies are not going to stand behind this type of a product, you know? And David?
Okay. Like just I think I just wanted to
before we go to you,
something.
can we go to David?
No,
I just let him.
Before we go to
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
get a sort of
Okay,
opening
yeah.
statement from Dave, just to
Makes
understand
sense.
where.
Before we go all crazy,
Makes sense.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get-
No, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, we talked recently, so you kind of like said what I think as well. There's Samsung has 30% of the market right now in or market share. Apple has like 57. So they do have a significantly higher market share, but no, but Samsung is still a huge competitor, and it's like exactly the same scenario in my mind of Facebook or Meta trying to go for that Samsung market, which is just get it to as many people as possible at a cheap price, and Apple is going as they do toward the pro market and the prosumer, and they're heading at the same problem with two different perspectives or two different avenues.
The one pushback that and actually I do want to get your take on this is the people my pushback to the idea that Meta by default has to be number two is as follows. When the iPhone came out, the two major competitors, the number one in the space was like Motorola, BlackBerry. You could argue that Nokia was there. What eventually ended up being the number two was not any one of those players. It was a company that came out after that copied Apple's tech, Samsung, and Google. Google and Samsung threw a tremendous amount of resources and money at it and copied what Apple did without any of the legacy costs or any of the legacy baggage on the technological side, and created the space and eventually pushed out what was the current number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 at the time that the iPhone came out. So this idea that Meta by default has to be number 2, I believe that the number 2 could be Samsung. It could be Google. It could be any one of these players that see what Apple's doing and becomes the Burger King, because they basically have have Apple prove the market. Okay, this is what you got to do. We're going to copy it and make our own version of it. The other part of it is that Meta is selling these devices at a loss right now, and I wonder how long investors or the board is going to be okay with them continuing to sell these devices at a loss. At some point, you got to make money.
Let's take two different things. Meta can lose money for a very long time, just like Apple, by the way. So
Apple doesn't lose money though.
Yes,
Ever.
It does. In fact, I've been reading more about this, Rangu. They are not profitable in that division. That division, just like you said, has been going on for over 5 years. But before we go to that, David, go ahead if you have a response to that.
No, go ahead.
No, he asked you directly. I think he was talking to you.
What?
I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear what
he was basically his thesis is that Meta spends 10 years.
There's going to be another competitor, or
and
there's
Mark Zuckerberg is such
that we don't know about. Yeah, that we don't know about. Well, it's like
But to
Well,
clarify, what I mean is, in the productivity space, the metaverse that was the original genesis of the Quest. I do believe that Meta, I mean, you can see the numbers right now. They're outselling Xboxes. They're outselling, they don't have the legacy costs that say Xbox One or PlayStation has, and they're able to dominate, I think, in the VR gaming space. But I don't think that that was Mark Zuckerberg's original intention. I still think he's going to be locked into being under the thumb of Apple. And while I feel that they'll increase market share on the gaming side, I do feel that now that we have a really powerful spatial computer, the metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg promised will happen on the Apple device. And I think that that's where they're going to take off and produce, take a large part of that market share. And the number 2 or 3 in that space will probably be a Samsung or a Google or even a Microsoft. Maybe they'll tweak what the HoloLens is and get a better device to take that to the market. I'm not saying Apple's going for gaming. They're not. They never were interested in being a gaming company. Just to be clear, that's what I mean.
So then
Yeah.
what do
So
you this
yeah,
so
yeah,
then what
go
do you
for it.
describe as the metaverse? Because I think Apple has kind of is not going toward the metaverse route, and the actual hardware itself doesn't seem to lend itself toward that. They want to go the AR, VR route, mostly AR.
The metaverse is, and the way I'm defining it is when the device is used as a productivity device outside of gaming. Everything outside of gaming, where it's used in
That's not the
productivity, where it's used
metaverse.
in work,
That's
where
not the
it's used
metaverse.
in
You're,
where it's
you're
used.
conflating terms already. That's
This is how
augmented
I'm
reality.
saying. I'm saying when I am talking about the metaverse, it's the idea of people using AR or VR, however you want to call it. For example, even like real estate, virtual tours, that sort of thing. Companies buying these devices to give customers experiences outside of gaming. I think that's where the market will explode, and companies will find
You
infinite
do
ways.
understand that's basically a game. What you're saying
No,
is
it's not.
literally a
It's
game,
not a
just
game.
in a
It's not.
different
It's
way.
not a game.
Yes, doing a
If
virtual
Zillow,
tour
hold on, Zillow comes
is
out
an
with an
easier
app for
version
the
of a game.
Vision Pro. If Zillow comes out with an app that is a way for customers to look at and walk around in the space in
Okay, I'm
a
glad you brought this
virtual
up.
rental or a potential house that they want to buy, that is not a game, even if
Okay,
it's
so I'm
created in
following
Unity.
you. So you're saying Zillow is going to expect everyone to have a $3,500 device in their hand. This is what you're
I'm not
saying?
saying they expect them to.
Or
I'm not saying
Zillow will
they expect them to.
put,
But for those that have
or
it,
hold on, or
but for those
Zillow will
that
make
have
some deal with Meta because Meta doesn't care about the hardware. You've said this yourself. They care about what happens after everybody has the hardware and how they're going to monetize it. That's what they care about. So that means Zillow is going to make a deal with Meta to buy these devices for $250 because Meta doesn't care about the price. And now virtual tours are in the metaverse with Meta. That's what's going to happen.
okay. You're
David,
talking about
I
the
think
company.
David should actually interject and add a little bit because it shouldn't be just me and you going back and forth. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think you make a good point in that, the more handhelds or the more devices that are out there, that's what's going to drive the market. And if Apple going for that prosumer market, they're not going to be in everyone's hands. And Zillow is going to be developing apps for the Vision Pro and for the biggest device out there. There's nothing in Quest 2 that's precluding it from becoming a spatial computing device, and all of the technology is also being worked on, and it's an app away basically. But Meta is spending all of this money on metaverse stuff, and metaverse is complicated. Making basically a AAA hub, a AAA gaming hub for that will load up every other game and can play every other game, can have every other experience. That's uh, a huge effort and a huge undertaking, and Meta has already several years of headway toward that front, whereas Apple hasn't shown anything toward that. And what
Okay.
they are doing with the spatial computing stuff is awesome, and they have some great tech there. But there is a lot they're missing and haven't
I'd love
shown.
to get
Okay.
Rango's point on this, but
Yep.
the just the point on terms of the capex. Okay, Apple, say right now, Meta has about, say, what, 1 billion users, right? They're at 1 billion MAUs right now. They have 1 billion users that are
I think
using
it's
their
3
software for
billion.
free. That
But okay.
say 3 billion. Okay, so they have 3 billion MAUs that they are monetizing by essentially selling their data or by data or through advertising. Apple has 2 billion iPhones where that are from customers, not users of a platform, from customers that have already been in the ecosystem. If they get 1% of those people, 1%, which is a tiny, tiny fraction of the number of iPhone users out there that have already paid $1,000 up to $1,500. What you're talking about is a 2x from there to have essentially the power of 2 PlayStations in a mobile compute device. I don't think it's that much of a
You
stretch.
keep
for
saying
Apple
it's
to
2
get
PlayStations. Is
1%.
this 2 PlayStations, David? I haven't heard
In
this.
terms
I
of
don't know where you got
processing
that fact
power,
from.
yeah. In terms of
He's saying the
processing power,
compute power is 2 PlayStations as opposed to. I'm just curious if that's true. I have no idea.
It's very hard to compare because two different chips. But it is an M2 chip. There is an M2 chip and an R1 chip. M2 chip is basically what is in the MacBook.
Yep.
Which is like you can run good like metal related software on that, and it is technically can run good games. It's just Apple doesn't support gaming really well for various different reasons. I can go on to if you want, but
Well, we do because I looked it up. The
Can you give
gaming
a 30
market is not
seconds
small.
Just a 30,
Yep.
30 seconds on it, because even me as an Apple fan, I'm curious why they went the route of mobile gaming and arcade versus, say, trying to get the next Halo.
Well, they are. They're
I
actually
mean,
getting.
like
Are you talking about Apple? Are you talking about Apple or Meta?
Yeah, I'm saying Apple. I'm saying
Apple
Apple.
did
It is
start
curious that they
supporting
don't want
DirectX
to do
now.
their
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now there is a lot of effort going to gaming for sure. They supported DirectX like this WWDC. They directly supported Windows game on Mac devices. So Apple, this WWDC started taking efforts towards that. But overall, Apple has tried to don't want like they don't want Steam, like they want to be the Steam. They don't want to port Steam games into like they don't want to like have like give like another gaming portal access to like they don't want to give the access of the platform. Like they want to be the Steam, like because that gives them a lot of control. They tried that, but now they are like, okay, we tried that. There were like decent games on it, but it's not like a Steam or an Xbox. So now they support DirectX and going towards supporting Steam. That's what I would guess if
But
they're supporting
but but
DirectX.
but answer this, okay? And maybe this is a function of the legacy Intel, the relationship that they had with Intel chips. But you could just boot camp the Mac before, run it in Windows, and so you're not only out of their ecosystem, you're out of their entire OS.
That's not because of Apple that you cannot run Windows on top of M1. That's because of Windows. That's because of Microsoft. Microsoft don't want to support their Windows ARM officially on the M1 device for ARM. It's a base different device, like different architecture. Windows doesn't want to support like x64 for consumer devices. There is an enterprise license. I use it actually like at work for some stuff. Like it is there. It's just they don't officially support it for consumer devices.
So
It's not Apple. It's Windows. Windows can support anytime they want.
well, I'm glad you brought up
So
gaming
even
because
something like Parallels, even something like Parallels or
well, I know, but
software.
No,
that's
you can
hold on, it's
directly
virtualization.
boot.
Yeah, it won't
Yeah,
work,
you
and you
can.
can't run that on an
No,
M1 Mac.
I mean Windows doesn't support. I mean you can. Windows just doesn't support it on the mainstream. You still like you can run it. It's just you cannot officially get a license and run it like that. You have to like download it and do it other ways. Yeah.
Okay.
David, so I think one of the problems at least Carlos has in understanding in terms of developers. That's what we're going to talk about. Developers.
I mean, yeah.
hold on, Rangu. I know you're like me. You're ready to go. But
I have a lot of things to say.
right. So, but like I'm a small developer, and then I want David actually to respond to this. So the problem I have, by the way, is that Apple does control the ecosystem for the iPhone, and so I have an app that's it's not a big app. It's a depth of field app for filmmakers, but it's actually pretty popular. It makes me a little bit of money every single month, and I've never had the opportunity to port it to Android because I just always figured I would never make enough because the Android store doesn't make enough, that's why Apple owns that ecosystem. So I never had personally the time to sit down and do two different apps at the same time, even though it's similar, but still, Apple has their own Xcode, their own ecosystem that they use. So now I have to go to Android Studio. So I'm bringing up these details because these details are important for developers. Okay. So once again, now to David, are developers going to develop for the brand that has 20 million currently? I'm not talking about 5 years from now. This could all change 5 years from now. I'm talking about now. There's 20 million devices. I looked this up. There's 10 to 12 million sold in 2022 of Oculus. There's going to be 15 million sold this year in 2023, maybe more depending on how Oculus 3 does, but that's the expectation. So what happens when Apple announces their thing? I mean, it comes out next year and there's 150,000 sold because Apple said, We're not selling 1 million. They actually had originally projected 1 million. They brought it down to 150,000. So now to David, the whole point of all this diatribe is that what happens when developers get their hands on these two devices? What do you develop for? So I'm asking you as a developer.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of early adopters for the Apple Vision Pro in the development side because they're already in the Apple ecosystem and believe in the Apple ecosystem. You know, Carlos was saying or was talking about why not get like a Halo or whatever, but Apple already currently has a huge market share of all video games as well, just through mobile development.
Yep.
So they don't need another Halo, or they could have another, you know, somebody Rovio could make the next Halo, or
You know what the
you
numbers
know, all
are
of these companies.
in terms of market
For
share?
no, but
Gaming.
it's something.
Most
or-
of the App Store revenue comes from games. Just FYI.
Really?
Well, so this is
Yep.
important. I'm glad you're bringing this up. So
Yeah,
Meta going
that's
after
why they went
games.
for all the little games, is because mobile gaming is where all the money is. And the money is not in the AAA games. AAA games get all the headlines. The money is in the little dumpy apps that charge you $1.99 to get 15 more minutes or whatever. Like, particularly females and children burn through those credits.
So actually, I'm glad you. What's your name, by the way?
They don't game the same way that people, like, mostly on this podcast, think of gamers.
So Sasquatch, what's your name? Just so we know who's
Doug.
Doug.
Doug. Who's Doug? He's Doug on Twitter.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Doug, I don't know if you have kids, Doug. So someone's selling you an Oculus 2 right now for $400 or even $300. It's going to be $500 for the new thing, or it's going to be $3,500 or even $1,500 in a year, whatever, for the other thing. I have three kids. Now I've been drinking. I've got 2 kids still. A third on the way.
God, I missed one.
I've got 2 kids, so I had to buy 3 of these devices. So I spent $1,200. It was $400 when I bought it, right? I spent and I had to think about it, but I wanted to play ping pong with them. Wanted to play these games, tennis and whatever. Can you imagine someone spending like $9,000